as just a standing matter to get from whoever's in charge of watching over what that budget is a report of how that money's been spent so far, what it's been spent on, and how much is left. So the answer is yes there. Now the part that I said, did anybody raise a red flag, is it's not true that whatever you don't use goes back to the public authority. That's not public authority money. That's advisory committee money. The legal truth is that whatever isn't used doesn't get used and it doesn't get spent, and that's that. You have to use it or lose it. It doesn't go over to the public authority. It's not public authority money. It's not county money. It's advisory committee money. That's the only thing that it's meant to be for. Yes, sir. Just shout it out. I'll repeat the question. The last couple of years, if our advisory committee money hasn't been spent, where does it go? Okay, good question. So the answer is, this is one of these things where you have to spend the money in order to get it back. You cannot bank this money. You cannot say, oh, we only spent $40,000 this year, so we've got an extra $13,000 that we didn't spend. We'll bank it and we'll spend it next year. No, you have to spend it, and the county has to advance the money, and then the county makes a claim for it, and the money's reimbursed. Okay, well, what happens to the extra? You have to spend it. Basically, you don't get reimbursed for it. You've got an allowance up to a certain amount. You can use it up to that amount. The part that you don't use, the county can't claim for or anything else. So I know this, and frankly, I don't have that personally that much of an objection to it. I know that it's not legal. It's not what it's meant for. But if you've used everything that you can possibly think of that you want to use, that is, everybody has a computer that's maintained, you're having attendance for everybody, anybody that wants to go to a meeting any place relating to public authority or advisory committee business can go to that meeting, have their expenses paid, their travel expenses, their lodging, their food, and everything else. If that's all covered, if you've got covered what the stuff that Cindy was talking about with your campaigns and stuff like that, one thing you can do is, now the county may not want this, but this is done in some counties, and I think it's an absolutely appropriate. They say, oh, well, the public authority's been cut back, so we don't have a staff person anymore. You know, we have to do our own photocopying or something like that. The thing is, no, you can take that advisory committee money and hire a staff person, a private person, to come and do your minutes and prepare your agenda for you and make all your photocopies for your packets and all that kind of stuff. You can use the money for that. That's what it was meant for. Those are for administrative expenses related to the advisory committee. When they poor mouth you and say, no, we can't do it, say, well, okay, fine, we'll go hire somebody. That's what the money's for. Yes, ma'am. Well, of course. The lady asked the question, do you ever get the sense that advisory committees are just spending money to spend money because they don't want to give it back to the state? Yeah. You know, that's kind of the way it is with public budgeting. You have this limit, and folks say, you know, we really do need to spend it. What else can we think of to spend it on? And, you know, they have to come up with something that's within the guidelines. They have to spend it on appropriate public things, but anybody in government that's got a budget and they haven't quite used it all up, they think, well, are there other things that we could use that are appropriate that we could spend the money on? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not like they're going out and making gifts and giving grocery cards out on the street corner or something like that. You know, it has to all be appropriate. Plus, it's very appropriate for it to be budgeted in the beginning, like Cindy says. And so you want to budget it, and you want to think, okay, well, we only put down $20,000 here. Well, what else can, you know, there's a lot of things you can use the money for that's going to make your efforts, it's going to amplify your efforts, it's going to make you a better advisory committee. How about this? What if you had a professional facilitator come in and help you do a strategic plan, or helped you do board development, or helped you figure out ways to recruit people for good advisory committee members? Those are all things. When I was in Marin, the first couple of years, we spent like $25,000 of the advisory committee money on an outside consultant to do board development to help us work out how we were going to get along with each other, because there was a lot of contention on the board. That's absolutely appropriate expenditure of money, is to hire an outside consultant to come in and help you get all of that stuff set up. You still get the same amount next year. You just didn't spend it. You don't get to keep it for the next year. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Yes, you. You're welcome. Okay, let me, I want to be able to repeat your question so everybody can hear it, and I'm starting to forget the first thing that you said. So let me see if I can get the gist of it here and repeat it for folks and then give you an answer. Her question was, do we have to follow the rules when we're traveling? Do we have to follow the county rules regarding travel? And her illustration was that she needed to drive up here because her attendant doesn't fly, and they said on MapQuest that it takes 7 hours and 28 minutes, and that's all we're going to give you is according to the MapQuest for your travel expenses. Here's my answer to that. I'm going to give you two answers. The first is the overall answer. Number one, when you're going to run into rules all over the place, and you have to decide whether or not they're really hurting you, or they're, that they don't make any sense to you, or if you can live with it. And the reality is, it's just like when somebody's doing an IHSS assessment. The law is that if it takes that attendant longer to do that particular thing because you're a person with rheumatoid arthritis and they can't take, when they're giving you a bed bath, they can't take the sheet and flip you like, most people do, because it would be too hurtful, that they have to turn you by hand, then the county has to give you that extra time. They'll often say, well, we can't do that because that's against the guidelines. That's wrong. That's not true. So the same thing here is the MapQuest is just what somebody says it should take under normal driving conditions. If it actually takes longer or it's more expensive, well, then, of course, the burden of proof is on you. You have to, be able to establish it, but those rules can be changed. The larger point I wanted to make is that this is an educational process. You're learning how to be public servants, and you're learning how to function within this system, but it's also your job to educate the rest of the public system, the county, as to what your rights and responsibilities are, and if you don't do it, there won't be anybody that does it. It's totally up to you. Okay, did you hear what the lady said? The county, she just repeated something that the man had asked. I know that he said the money goes to the public authority that we don't spend. She's saying the county's telling her in San Diego that whatever they don't spend, they get. That's not true. That's not true. Okay, I've been given a sign back there that I'm supposed to stop talking. I'm going to give this back to Cindy and let her wrap this up.
Thank you, John. Yes, sir, in the back.